At Herculaneum, 2 small loaves about 5 inches in diameter, and plainly marked with a cross, were found. In the Old Testament are references made in Jeremiah 7:18 and 13:19 to such sacred bread being offered to the moon goddess. The cross bread was eaten by the pagan Saxons in honor of Oster, the goddess of light. The Mexicans and Peruvians are shown to have had a similar custom. The custom, in fact, was practically universal, and the early church adroitly adopted the pagan practice, grafting it onto the Eucharist. The boon with its Greek cross became akin to the Eucharistic bread or cross-marked wafers mentioned in St. Chrysostom's liturgy. In the medieval church, buns made from the dough for the consecrated host were to be distributed to the communicants after Mass on Easter Sunday. In France and other Catholic countries, such blessed bread is still given in the churches to communicants who have a long journey before they can break their fast. In the Bible, a similar situation concerning buns or cakes was recorded. The children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Notice that it was this practice that aroused the anger of God. Now let's look at one of the most common Easter rituals, egg hunting. According to various sources, the legend behind the egg is that a large egg fell from heaven and landed in the Euphrates River, where several wondrous-sized fishes rolled the egg ashore and into some wicker reeds, where several doves descended to incubate it. Soon out popped Ishtar, the spring goddess. This is where hunting for eggs and putting them in a wicker basket came from. But when the church adopted these practices, they tried to Christianize this pagan symbol. Greg Deuce says in his book Catholic Customs and Traditions, "The egg has become a popular Easter symbol. Creation myths of many ancient peoples center in a cosmogonic egg, from which the universe is born. In ancient Egypt and Persia, friends exchanged decorated eggs at the spring equinox, the beginning of their new year. These eggs were a symbol of fertility for them, because the coming forth of a live creature from an egg was so surprising to people of ancient times. Christians of the Near East adopted this tradition, and the Easter egg has become a religious symbol. It represented the tomb from which Jesus came forth to new life. This is blasphemy. The common symbol used at Easter for the creature coming forth from the egg is a chicken. What does this then make Christ?" The pagan origin of Easter eggs goes even further. The goddess totem, the moon hare, would lay eggs for good children to eat. Ostrate was a maiden whose aspects of renewal and rebirth brought about the reappearance of bright spring flowers, baby chickens fresh from the shell, baby bunnies from their winter dens. Eggs were a symbol of both the sun god, the golden yolk, and fertility, the white shell symbolizing the white goddess, and were used both as talismans and eaten in ritual. So originally eggs were a symbol of the sun god and fertility. But what about the Easter bunnies? Here's what one writer said. "To be perfectly correct, it is the hare, not the rabbit, who should be honored as the most famous secular Easter symbol. Easter is a movable feast dependent for its date on the phase of the moon, and from antiquity the hare has been a symbol for the moon, the rabbit has not. Hares are born with their eyes open, rabbits are born blind. The Egyptian word for hare was un, meaning open or to open, and the full moon watched open-eyed throughout the night. According to legend, the hare was thought never to blink or close its eyes." So then how did the hare of paganism evolve into the rabbit or bunny of Easter? We find the answer in the following quote from the book Trail of the Serpent. "The bull, for example, was the earthly representative of the sun as the great fertilizer, as was also the rabbit and a multitude of other prolific animals. The hare became the rabbit because rabbit stood for fertility, and Easter is a fertility festival." Now what could be wrong with the tradition of new dresses for Easter? According to a couple sources, this too came from paganism. A popular Easter offering was freshly made or purchased clothes. The priests wore their best clothes while the Vestal virgins wore newly made white dresses. They also wore headgear like bonnets, and many adorned themselves in garlands of spring flowers. This seems to still take place today in the homes and churches of professed followers of Christ. Many who may not do egg hunts may still have connections to the Easter lily. Is this truly a Christian symbol? Having become symbolic of the season, churches worldwide decorate their altars with these beautiful flowers, and innumerable thousands of them are given away to women at Easter as gifts. Few, however, realize the ancient significance of such gifts. The so-called Easter lily has long been revered by pagans of various lands as a holy symbol associated with the reproductive organs. It was considered a phallic symbol. One might easily surmise what was being suggested by sending a gift of such nature in ancient times. Now, although the flower is not in itself evil, because of its pagan connotations, to use it in connection with a fertility festival is wrong. We should in all that we do avoid the appearance of evil. We are told, abstain from all appearance of evil. Do you abstain from the appearance of evil? In ancient times, the 14th through 15th days of February was the feast of Lupercalia. You will notice that February 14 and 15 is approximately 13 days from Imbolg, February 1 and 2. Lupercalia means the day of the wolf. The reason it is connected to wolves is because it is in honor of Lupercus, the wolf god. Speaking about Lupercalia, David Mayer wrote, "This was a day that was sacred to the sexual frenzy of the goddess Juno. This day also honored the Roman gods Lupercus and Faunus, as well as the legendary twin brothers who supposedly founded Rome, Remus and Romulus. These two are said to have been suckled by wolves in a cave on Palatine Hill in Rome. The cave was called Lupercal and was the center of the celebrating on the eve of Lupercalia, or February 14th. On this day, Lupercalia, which was later named Valentine's Day, the Luperci, or priest of Lupercus, dressed in goatskins for a bloody ceremony. The priest of Lupercus, the wolf god, would sacrifice goats and a dog, and then smear themselves with blood. These priests, made red with sacrificial blood, would run around Palatine Hill in a wild frenzy while carving a goatskin thong called a februa. Women would sit all around the hill as the bloody priest would strike them with the goatskin thongs to make them fertile. The young women would then gather in the city, and their names were put in boxes. These love notes were called billets. The men of Rome would draw a billet, and the woman whose name was on it became his sexual lust partner, with whom he would fornicate until the next Lupercalia, or February 14th. Thus, February 14th became a day of unbridled sexual lust. According to the booklet Baptized Paganism, the goatskin whips evolved into little arrows shot by Cupid, and matchmaking today occurs through the more purposeful exchange of Valentine cards. And Doc Marquis states, "And the two most famous sacrifices people would bring to the temple to the goddess were sweets, such as candies and spring flowers." The practices of the ancient Lupercalia appear to be the same in the modern St. Valentine's celebration. We have the flowers and we have chocolate candies. Of course, there is nothing wrong with the flowers, or with giving them at this time of year. The wrong is in doing it in connection with the holiday. Interestingly, it appears that even a lesser-known holiday, such as Valentine's, has a connection to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. When the serpent tempted Eve, he said, "For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil." Thus the serpent told Eve that it would make her as gods, and would bring knowledge or wisdom. On an internet website speaking about chocolate, the following quote is found. Renowned botanist Carolus Linnaeus, who is credited with the foundation of the contemporary method of the technical classification of the species in the plant kingdom, aptly named the chocolate tree as Theobroma, which when translated into English literally means the food of the gods. During one of his explorations in 1519, the Spanish traveler Hernando Cortés and his warriors were spectators to a bizarre ritual at the Aztec Emperor Montezuma's royal court. While his subjects keenly watched him with admiration and awe, seated on an elevated golden throne, Emperor Montezuma, who was considered to be the living god by his countrymen, continually drank an infusion from a golden goblet. On inquiry, Cortez and his men came to learn that the bitter and dark brown drink was called chocolatl by the native Indians, who showed their respects to the Spanish explorer and his soldiers by offering them the drink. The natives informed Cortez that the beans from which the drink were prepared was derived from heaven, and every sip of chocolatl infused knowledge and wisdom among the people. Could this be a coincidence? Maybe it is. But if it isn't, could the serpent still be advertising his fruit under the lie that it won't kill you? It might be interesting to study out the health effects of chocolate. Now what about the little naked baby named Cupid? Is he pagan too? According to World Book Encyclopedia, Cupid in Roman mythology was the son of the goddess of love, Venus. He is called Eros in Greek mythology. A wound from one of his arrows made a person fall in love. So Cupid is the name of a pagan Roman god, originally a Greek god. The reason he was naked is because the Greeks required their athletes to be naked in the stadium. James Rossetti says that Olympic athletes served as models for those workmen who are fashioning idol Greek gods and goddesses for the people to worship. Thus the gods and goddesses were endowed with spectacular physical gifts that resembled those of the Olympic athletes, and the legends built to support these idols were that the Greek gods were almost always immoral and promiscuous. In the Bible, nakedness is a representation of sin. In the Garden of Eden, when there was no sin, Adam and Eve were clothed with light like God is. In Psalms 104:1 and 2 it says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, thou art very great, thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain." However, when they sinned, it says, "And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons." Why do you have a sinful figure plastered over everything? If we don't worship pagan gods, why do we have a pagan god in one of our holidays? Does seeing a naked baby all over everything really help you to keep your mind pure? So why is red associated with Valentine's? David Mayer says, "The color red was sacred to that day because of the blood." Dr. J. Simon says, "Red is the color of indiscretion, sensuality, passion, and prostitution." Now we do not condemn the color red. It is seen in God's creation. We see it in space, in the fall leaves, in flowers, in the rainbow, in fruit, and many other places. The color red is not bad. It is when it is used in connection with a pagan day, a naked pagan god, and others that it shouldn't be used. Now why the hearts? According to various sources, another name for Tammuz was Cupid, which means desire. Tammuz, the god named Desire, was married by his own mother, Queen Semiramis. In Babylonian, the word heart was Baal. See Daniel 6:14 in Strong's Concordance. In the depictions of Tammuz, the heart-shaped fruit of Persea was often found in his hand. Tammuz thus became known as the god of the heart. This is a counterfeit. Mark 12:30 says, "And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength." This is the first commandment. We are to give our heart to Christ, not Cupid. Is it right to allow a pagan god to have the power to make us love or hate? Do we draw nigh to God with our lips, but our heart is far away in Cupid's or the devil's keeping? Many today on the 17th of March dress in green, display three-leaf clovers and leprechauns. Does this holiday that bears the title of a saint really have saintly origins? Exactly who is this St. Patrick that we claim to honor on the 17th of March? History points out clearly that the true St. Patrick was not a Roman Catholic. One source says, "It, the papacy, labored to gather Patrick into its fold by inventing all kinds of history and fables to make him a papal hero. It surrounded with a halo of glory a certain Palladius, apparently sent by Rome to Ireland in the midst of Patrick's success. He has also been called Patrick." So there was a true Patrick and a false Patrick, but they are very different in character.